Students, let us start our class of the chapter Neural Control and Coordination with the topic Central Neural System known as CNS. And in the CNS, brain is the most important organ, and it is the most important organ of the body also, and its function is to process the information and then it gives the command. So we can say that it acts as command and control system of the body. It controls various voluntary movements. Voluntary movements means which are happening or taking place according to our will. Then it balances the body. It gives commands to the involuntary organs like lungs, heart, and kidneys, etc., which we have talked in the previous chapters. That all the controlling parts of these organs are present in the brain. Then hunger and thirst and thermoregulation means temperature is also maintained by the brain. It controls the hunger and the thirst also, and it 24-hour rhythm of the body is also maintained by the brain. Now various endocrine glands, they are also under the control of the neural system, and the behavior of human being is also under the brain. So we can say that it is the main processing organ, and it processes the vision also, hearing, speech, memory, intelligence, emotions, and thoughts. So we are able to see that all the controlled and the coordinated actions are in the control of brain. And if we talk about the structure, the brain, it is protected by a hard covering that is known as a skull, which is bony in structure. Now inside the skull, brain is covered by outer layer, and that is called as dura mater. Then there is a middle layer which is known as arachnoid, and an inner layer which is the innermost layer, that is known as pia mater. So these are the three linings or the layers of the brain, and the brain is divided into three major parts: the forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. This is the structure of a brain, and it is showing various parts. So this is for hindbrain. Then here it is midbrain, hindbrain, and then this is the forebrain. These are the three main parts of the brain. Now if we talk about the parts and the functions of these brain, so first is forebrain of this brain. Forebrain, it consists of cerebrum, thalamus, and hypothalamus. These are the parts of the forebrain. And the cerebrum, what is its function? It is the main part of the brain, and there is a deep cleft in the cerebrum which is dividing the cerebrum into two halves, that is left and right half. Left half, it is known as left cerebral hemisphere, and the right half, it is known as then right cerebral hemisphere. And these hemispheres, they are connected by the track of nerve fibers, and these track of nerve fibers, they are known as corpus callosum. Now this cerebral hemisphere, the layer of cells are covering this cerebral hemisphere, and there are prominent folds also in this area. Then the cerebral cortex is there. It is known as the gray matter. Why it is called as gray matter? Because it has grayish appearance. Now the neuron cell bodies or the nerve cells, they are concentrated here, and they are giving this gray color to this, and then that's why it is known as gray matter. Then cerebral cortex, it contains motor areas, sensory areas, and large regions. We know that motor areas from where the nerves are arising, and which are from the carrying the messages from the brain to the body parts, and the sensory areas from where the sensory nerves are coming from the body and or from the sense organs, and they are reaching to the brain. And there are large regions also, they which are neither clearly associated with the sensory neuron part or nor with the motor part, and these parts are called as association areas. And these association areas, they are responsible for the memory, for communication, and for other intersensory associations. You know, there are five sense organs in the body, and these sense organs, when they are associated with each other, then that association is also controlled by this area which is known as association area in the brain. Now fibers of track are covered with myelin sheath. We have talked about myelin sheath, that it is a layer which is present on the neuron or the nerve cell. Now this myelin sheath, it gives white appearance to the layer, and that's why it is called as white matter. So we have talked about the gray matter and the white matter. Now this cerebrum, it wraps around a structure known as thalamus, and this is the main coordinating center for sensory and motor signaling. Now the another important part is hypothalamus, and this hypothalamus, it is present at the base of thalamus. This hypothalamus, it also contains a number of centers, and these centers controls various activities of the body like body temperature, then thirst, or we can say hunger. So all these are controlled by the hypothalamus. Special neurosecretory cells are also present here, which secrete the hormones, and these hormones, as they are secreted by the hypothalamus, they are known as hypothalamic hormones. Now inside the cerebral hemisphere, there are group of associated deep structures, and these are called as hippocampus or amygdala, and these form the complex structure which is known as limbic system. Now with the hypothalamus, this hypothalamus, along with thalamus, it is responsible for the expression of emotions like excitement, pleasure, and fear and motivation. So we have seen that forebrain, it is controlling many of the activities of the body. Now second part of the brain is midbrain. It is located between the thalamus and the hypothalamus and the pons of the hindbrain, and there is a canal present which is known as cerebral aqueduct. Aqueduct means it is carrying some liquids, and it is passing through the midbrain. The dorsal portion of the midbrain, it consists of four round lobes, and these lobes, as they are four in number, they are known as corpora quadrigemina. Quadri means four, so there are four lobes, so name is corpora quadrigemina. The next part of the brain is hindbrain, and this hindbrain, it consists of pons, cerebrum, and cerebellum and medulla. And this pons function is that it can interconnect different parts of the brain. Then cerebellum, it is to provide the additional space for many neurons, and the medulla, it is connecting brain to the spinal cord. So the medulla, it contains various centers like respiration, cardiovascular reflexes, and gastric secretions. So we have studied about the three parts of brain and the various areas associated with them. Now the next topic is reflex action and reflex arc. You know that what is reflex arc? Whenever any quick actions are taking place in the body, they are known as, and in those actions brain is not involved directly, those actions are known as reflex actions. And you might have observed that whenever you touch a hot object or cold, or you any pointed object or some animal comes in front of you, so what you do, you immediately withdraw your body part from there, and that is because this entire process has taken place because of the PNS, peripheral nervous stimulation. So it occurred involuntary, without our conscious efforts, without our thoughts, and such type of actions which are without taking place without our thoughts, they are known as reflex actions. And if we talk about the pathway that from where this reflex action taking place, then we can say that reflex pathway consists of one afferent neuron, then one efferent neuron, and they are arranged in a series. Now this afferent neuron, what it will do, it will receive the signals, and now it will from where, from the sensory organ, and it will transmit this signal to the dorsal nerve root into the CNS. And now this efferent neuron, now this will carry the signal from the CNS to the effector, and the stimulus and response thus forms a complex or the reflex arc. Now let us have a look at the diagram. Here you are able to see, suppose this is the hot object which is acting as a stimulus. So this is the hot object which is acting as a stimulus. Now what is happening? Afferent pathway, it is carrying the message. Now this message is going to the vertebral column. spinal cord. And the spinal cord, here the motor neurons are present. Now the efferent pathway, it will bring the message. Now this effector, so this is the receptor which have received the stimulus from the environment, and now this effector, which is a muscle, it will get contracted and we will withdraw our leg. So this section which has not involved the brain directly and which has taken place very immediately, quickly, this section is known as reflex action, and the path followed by it is called as reflex pathway. And this consists of an afferent neuron. Then we talked that it consists of CNS, whose part is this vertebral column spinal cord, and then there is efferent neuron. Now next is sensory reception and processing. So how the messages from the sense organs will come and how their processing will take place. Sensory organs, what they do, they detect all the changes which are taking place outside in the environment, and then they are, after the detection, they are sending the signals to the central nervous system, and from where all the inputs are processed, means whatever the messages are taken or given by the sensory organs, they are sent to the CNS. Now the processing of the message will take place. Now the signals will be sent to the brain where different centers are there, and now these messages which have reached to the brain will interpret or process, and the commands will be given by the brain to the different sense organs. So now we will be studying about these sense organs. Eyes, we know that there are 5 sense organs: eye, nose, ears, skin and tongue. So first we will study about eye. Eye, it is a round or ball like structure, and it is present in the sockets of skull, and these sockets of the skull, they are known as orbits. And if we study the structure, human eyeball, it is spherical. This eye wall of this eyeball, it is divided into 3 layers. The external layer, it is composed of dense connective tissue, and it is called as sclera. Then the anterior portion, it is called as the cornea, and the middle portion, it is called as choroid. And it consists of many blood vessels, and that's why the middle layer, it looks bluish in color. Now we have talked that this eyeball, it consists of 3 layers: sclera, cornea and choroid. Now the choroid layer, it is thin. It is thin at the posterior 2/3 of the eyeball, but it becomes thick at the anterior part of the eyeball. And where it is thick at the anterior portion, it forms ciliary body. Now this ciliary body, what they will do? They continues forward to form a pigmented and opaque structure, means ciliary body, they will be continuing forward, and a colored structure will be formed by them, and this colored structure, it is known as iris, which is the visible colored portion of the eye, जो हमारी eye के अंदर जो particular color provide कर रहा है eye को, that is iris. Now this eyeball is there, and this eyeball consists of a lens, and this lens, it is held by the ligament are special tissues, and they are holding the lens, and in front of the lens there is an aperture, and that is surrounded by the iris, and this is called as pupil, and the diameter of the pupil is regulated by the muscle fiber of the iris. You know that there is a membrane, or there is a layered structure, that is known as retina, and it consists of 3 types of neural cells: ganglion cells, bipolar cells and photoreceptor cells. Means retina consists of 3 types of cells. So let us have a look on the diagram also. This is the structure of eye, and there it is. These are the various parts. This is cornea, this is the iris which is providing particular color, this is the lens, these are the ligaments which are holding this lens. Now this is the layer or the screen which is called as a retina, and on the retina there is a blind spot and the fovea, and this is the optic nerve which is arising from the eye, and it is reaching to the brain. So these are the various parts of the brain. Now this retina, it consists of 3 layers of neural cells. First layer, it is ganglion, then bipolar layer of cells, and third layer is photoreceptor cells. And the photoreceptor cells, there are two types of cells. This is rod cell and cone cells. Now these rod cells, what they do? Rod cells and cone cells. So these rod cells and cone cells, they contain light sensitive proteins, and these light sensitive proteins, they are known as photopigments. Now when there is daylight, then there is photopic vision and color vision. So color vision, it is for the because of the cells cones, and this colored vision is because of the cones, and the light vision is because of the presence of the rods. Now these rods, they contain special purplish red protein, and that protein is known as rhodospin, and it is a derivative of vitamin A. And in human beings, there are three types of cones, and these cones, they have their particular characteristics that respond to different colors: red color, green color, and blue lights. And the sensation of these different colors, they are produced by the combination of these three type of cone cells and their photopigments. And when all these cones are stimulated equally, then a white light is produced. Now optic nerve, this is the nerve which leaves the eye, or which starts or arises from the eye and the retinal blood vessels, and it enter into the then point medial to and slightly above the posterior pole of the eyeball. Now photoreceptor cells are not present in this region, and that's why this region is known as a blind spot. At the posterior pole of the eyeball, lateral to the blind spot, there is a yellowish pigment, and that is known as fovea. This is the thinned portion of the retina where only the cones are densely packed, and it is the point where the visual acuity resolution is the greatest. So I think it is clear to you. And on the blind spot, there are no photoreceptor cells, so the no image formation take place at that point. That is known as blind spot. And there is another point, fovea. What is fovea? This is the yellowish pigmented spot, and this is thinned portion of the retina where only cones are present, and so there the visual activity is the greatest. Now the space which is present between the cornea and the lens, it is called the aqueous chamber, and it contains, aqueous chamber name is telling, means it contains watery fluid, and that watery fluid, it is named as aqueous humor. Now the space between the lens and the retina, this is known as vitreous chamber. So it is visible in the diagram also. This is the vitreous chamber, and this portion, it is called as aqueous chamber. So this aqueous chamber, it contains some watery fluid, and this is the vitreous chamber. So this is all about the structure of eyeball. Mechanism of vision means how vision takes place. When the light rays, which are in the visible wavelength, when they are focused on the retina there are rod cells and cone cells. So when these light rays, they are focused on the retina, means from where they are entering from the cornea and the lens. Now they will generate potentials in the rod cells and cone cells. Now these rod cells and cone cells, they are present on the retina. These are the photosensitive cells. Photopigments are present there, and there is a photopigment named opsin and a retinal. Opsin, it is a protein, and retinal, it is an aldehyde of vitamin A. Now these what they will do, they will induce the light dissociation of the retinal from opsin, resulting in changing in the structure of opsin. Means when light will fall, there will be change in the structure of this opsin, and because of that there will be change in the permeability of the membrane. So potential differences are generated in the photoreceptor cells. Now this will produce a signal. This action potential, it will be transferred to the ganglion cells which are present in the brain, and this action potential, now it is transferred from the optic nerves to the visual cortex area of the brain. Means light has entered from the lens and from the cornea. Now the photosensitive cells have become activated. Now there will be change in the structure of opsin, and because of that these membranes they will become permeable. Now the message will be transferred to the optic nerve, and this optic nerve they will transmit the area to the visual cortex area of the brain, where these nerve impulses they will be analyzed and image will be formed on the retina based on, and it will be recognized based on the early memory and experience. So this is the mechanism of vision. Ear, next sense organ, it is ear. These are two in number and their function is to hear. So they are hearing aid we can say, and they provide the or they maintain the balance of the body. And this ear, it can be divided into three major sections: outer ear, middle ear and inner ear. Now this, the outer ear, it consists of pinna and external auditory meatus. Let us have a look in the diagram. This is the outer ear. It has pinna and then it has external auditory meatus. This is the external auditory meatus. This is pinna. This is external auditory meatus. So these are the parts of the external ear or the outer ear. Now this pinna, what is its function? It is highly coiled and it is visible from the outside. Its function is to collect the vibrations in the air, and these vibrations, when they are connected by the pinna, this external auditory meatus, it will lead inwards, and now it will carry the vibrations to the tympanic membrane or to the eardrum. So this is the tympanic membrane. So what is happening? Air is entering through the pinna, collected by the pinna, and now it is entering through the external auditory meatus. And what is there in front? Then tympanic membrane is there, which is known as eardrum. There are very fine hair and wax secreting substances present on the pinna and the meatus. So here also small hair like structure are present, and these are present here also in the meatus also. And the function of these hair like structure on the pinna and meatus is to absorb the maximum sound vibrations and to collect the dust or the pollutants which are present, dusty particles present in the air. Now this tympanic membrane, it consists of connective tissue and it is covered by a skin outside and with the mucous membrane it inside. Means this is the tympanic membrane. Here it is covered by the skin and inside it has some mucus. Now next it is middle ear. This middle ear, it consists of three ossicles. They are called as malleus, insus and stapes. So this is the middle ear. Malleus, insus and stapes. These are the three bones which are attached with one another, and a chain like structure is formed. Now this malleus, it is attached with the tympanic membrane. So this is the tympanic membrane. Here it is malleus, and then this, it is stapes, it is attached to the oval window. Now the ear ossicles, what is the function of ear ossicles? They will increase the efficiency of transmission of sound waves, and now these sound waves, these will reach to the inner ear. In the inner ear, eustachian tube is present. It will connect the middle ear cavity with the pharynx, and this tube, it helps in equalizing the pressures on either side of the eardrum. So this is the function of eustachian tube, which is visible in the diagram also. This is the eustachian tube. So it is maintaining the balance or equalizing the pressure on both sides of the eardrum. Now the fluid filled inner ear, means this is the external ear, then this is the middle ear, and now it is the inner ear. This inner ear, it is filled with the fluid, and that fluid filled inner ear, it is known as labyrinth, and it consists of two parts. First part is bony and the second part is membranous labyrinth. So the bony labyrinth, it is a series of channels. In this channels, what will happen? There is membranous labyrinth and they are surrounded by a fluid called perilymph. This membranous labyrinth, it is filled with a fluid called endolymph. Means two types of limbs are there, perilymph and endolymph. This coiled portion, it is known as cochlea. This is the coiled portion. And now the membranes constituting cochlea, resoners and basilar, they divide the surrounding perilymph fluid filled bony labyrinth into upper scala and the lower scala tympani. Means this fluid filled cavity is there and it is dividing the brain, this ear into two parts, and there is a space between this which is known as scala media, and this is filled with endolymph. Now the organ of Corti. This organ of Corti, it is a structure and it is located on the basilar membrane. So this is organ of Corti and it is located on the basilar membrane. It has fine cells, hair cells, and these hair cells, they act as auditory receptors. So they will receive the sounds. These hair cells, they are present in the rows on the internal side of the organ of Corti, and the basal end of the hair cell is in direct contact with the afferent nerve fibers, and these are large number of processes are there. These are known as stereocili, and which are projecting in the apical part of the each hair cell. Tectorial membrane is there. This is the tectorial membrane. Now the inner ear. This inner ear, it can also contains a complex system. It is known as vestibular apparatus. Then there are semicircular canals and otolith are there. Each semicircular canal, it lies at a different plane at right angle to each other. And these membranous canals, they are present or suspended in the perilymph of the bony canals. Now there are crista ampullaris and macula. This macula is the part where seculi and utricle, they are projecting. So and they maintain the balance of the body, and the posture of the body is also maintained by it. Now mechanism of hearing. How our ear convert the sound waves into neural impulses, and then which are sensed and processed by the brain. So what happens, first of all, the external ear, it will receive the sound. This sound will be directed to the eardrum, and these sound waves, when they will strike to the eardrum, they will vibrate the eardrum, and because of the vibrations, these vibrations will be transmitted further to the ear ossicles, to the middle ear, and which consist of three bones, malleus, insus and stapes, and from here it will reach to the oval window. Now these vibrations, they are passed to the oval window, and there is fluid of cochlea, and in the fluid of cochlea what will happen, generation of the waves will take place, and these waves in the lymph, what they will do, they will induce a ripple in the basilar membrane, and because of the movement of these basilar membrane, the hair cells will bend and they will press themselves against the tectorial membrane, and because of this, nerve impulses are generated with the afferent neurons, and these impulses then they are transmitted to the this auditory cortex of the brain. So means they will reach to the brain, and who will carry, afferent fibers will carry, and it will be carried by the auditory nerves, and when they will reach to the auditory cortex of the brain will analyze the impulses and the sound will be recognized. So this is all about the mechanism of hearing.